Thanks to Amazon Video Games for supporting Kinda Funny Live. Amazon debuted an awesome program for their Prime members, Prime Gamer Pricing. You can now get 20% off all your game pre-orders and also any newly launched games up to 2 weeks after they come out. Valid on physical video games. Learn more at amazon.com/gamesave.
Kinda Funny Live 2 is this Saturday and Sunday. If you haven't got your tickets already, go get them at kindafunny.com/tickets.
Colin, what's your topic?
I wanted to talk about Colin and Greg Live, which is our morning show on Twitch. And we've been doing it since the day we launched it, January 5th, 2015. Pretty much every weekday we've missed, I would say, cumulatively probably 20, 25 days in that time, with the exception of the 2 weeks we took off at the end of the year, et cetera, and so on. So this is a pretty consistent product. It's actually our most consistent product in terms of like airtime. I'd say it's 5, 6, 7 hours a week. And I wanted to kind of openly bounce ideas off of you guys and just kind of a notion I had about Colin and Greg Live. So my thought about this particular show, I was talking about this show with, who was I talking to about it with? Oh, okay. I'm not going to. I was talking to about
Nancy Reagan.
Nancy Reagan, who is dead.
The ghost of Nancy
You didn't
Reagan.
talk to her before. You're at a Ouija board.
But I was talking to someone in the industry high up at a big developer. And
Ted Price.
No. And he and I were talking about the show, and he's like, and he was like, this is the show with the greatest potential, because it's that you guys do, because it's different. And I started to really think about what he was saying, because I was like, well, that was the way I pitched it to you guys to begin with. It was like, let's do something a little different. And my thoughts are we putting enough? We were talking about like the bandwidth is full, right? Like we have no more bandwidth. But are we making a mistake by not putting more time, effort, and thought into that show in particular? And do you agree with the assessment of this learned gentleman that this show might have way more untapped potential than almost anything else we do? We just kind of do it. And a lot of that's on me, obviously. I mean, it's my show. It's our show. Greg and my show. But is there somewhere, do you see the show growing? Do you see the shows changing? Because basically the impetus that I want of this particular conversation was like, I was thinking about going to the audience and being like, what do you want this show to be? Because like, it's just whatever I want it to be. And it's just stupid and funny. And what we've noticed is that the numbers have gone down from concurrents from like 5 or 4,000 to like 25 to 3,000. But the show is way more profitable, gets like tons of tips. And subscribers, so that the numbers are kind of inverse, where the daily viewers have gone down, but the money that we make off the show and all the practical things that we need to worry about as a business are actually way up. So what's you guys having both co-hosted the show and also doing the show without us?
Right.
I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are on this, and if it would be a wise play for us to go to the audience, whether now in this video or in the near future, and be like, what do we make this show? Because it was modeled after things that were way more serious, and the show is totally like not serious anymore.
Yeah,
but I kind of like, that's what makes me like doing it. So I don't want to get up and do like I was wondering, like, do we make it 60 minutes? Do we have segments? Do we like shove everything in? So it begins at this and then it goes into this and then it ends with this. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of boring, you know, but maybe that's what people want. Maybe that's why the numbers have gone down, but then would it be more profitable? Yeah. So
I personally like the show better when it's our normal shenanigans. Right. Like I know there have been instances where we have to kind of get through it. And I think on the shows that I've been on in the last like 2 months, the ones that I've enjoyed the most are the ones where we just have a bunch of stories. Some of them are fun. Some of them are serious. Some of them are worthwhile. And some of them are just dumb to read. And we know that we're going to be able to vamp off each other, shoot the shit. It really is, to me, I think the power of the show is the same power that we always have in everything we do. It's a bunch of us fucking around, talking about stuff and having a good time. And people like to have a good time. Like, people like to watch people having a good time, and when we're having a good time, they're having a good time. Because at the end of the day, they're maybe all halfway across the world, someplace where they're either bored or just need a break for a half hour, and they want to watch a bunch of guys fucking goof around, right? And I mean, that's my thing, is when I've seen the tips come through, when I've seen people who respond very positively, whether it's a tip or a new sub or something like that, it's always after some stupid back and forth between Kevin or some really insightful piece of information that came from another dumb shit joke that we were talking about a story, you know? And I think all of that's built on a foundation of you guys actually having a strong knowledge for the industry, specifically for games. But once you get that out of the way, I personally just like it when the fucking show goes off the rails.
Gregory, what are your thoughts? It's your show as well.
I mean, I think it could go either way. I think that's the thing. I think if we're going to have a bad day, it starts with Colin Greg Live. It starts with you're late. Kevin yells at us to get in the room. We don't get in the room. This is happening. We bicker between the three of us about something stupid, and then I'm off on a bad mood. I mean, so it's like those are the days where I'm like, fucking cancel this. I'd rather answer emails. I'd rather play in PS I love you. I'd rather edit thank you videos. I'd rather respond to Patreon messages. I'd rather do all this stuff. But then when it works and we're all in a good mood and we all come in ready to make a show and positive and we have that energy together, that's when it's fucking awesome. And that's when there's a million subs and there's a million tips and everything's great. And it's a product you can totally be like, yes, this is fucking fantastic. But the problem is that with their, you're asking, should there be structure? Of course there should be. I think that's one of the reasons why Beyond worked. It's one of the reasons why this works. It's one of the reasons PS I Love You works, is that you know what your responsibilities are and how to hit them and where to go and da-da-da-da. And I think we get into this weird thing of like, I'm texting you like 10:40, like, where are you? I don't even know if you're in the, like, there was a day I knocked on your room and I thought you were dead. Cause like, I didn't hear him leave last night and he's not here now. Like, I don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? It's like this weird flux of just like, if it's haphazard and stressful to get started, then it has a bad tone. It's what I talk to you all the time about. Like, we get to set it, right? Like when we, like that PS I Love You that nobody liked, or a lot of people didn't like, right? We sat down and your first thing is like, I'm tired. It's been a long day. And then people were like, why? Like we hadn't said anything. Nobody would know. You know what I mean? Like that's what, that day, so nobody knows this, like Christine and I break up on a Sunday. I come back, immediately go out to Wings and come back and go in my room and go to bed. I saw you for like 2 seconds. You're out in the living room, but I didn't want to talk about it. And so that morning I woke up, we did Colin Greg Live, we started into lunch, and then we did the meeting and I broke down in tears and told you all that we broke up. And you're like, how did you do that? Like for me, like the part of the job I fucking hate is the emails, is the planning, is the bullshit, is this thing, is this back and forth with somebody about a W-9 that we need to fill out after this. It's all these dumb, stupid things, right? But when I get to be in front of the camera, I have to ignore everything. I get to ignore everything. And so if that can be pure, if that can be us excited, if that can be us, even if we are, any of us, interplay between each other, it's bad. You know what I mean? Like if we've had an argument or something right before we went on, if we can all check it and just be pow and be the people we want to be, that's when it's the best and we leave here on an up note. Whereas like I think if the show is bad or we come in with baggage over us or I come in with a chip on my shoulder that it's later I didn't know, or Kevin fucking again was asking me, like comes out and he's like, yeah, what is it? Every morning at 10:55 you come out and you go, going on standby. I'm like, why are you? We're four of us right here. You know what I mean? Like it's these little things about like, it's not that's what sets me off. It's the Nick thing of that we were just talking about, not the Nick thing. But like that's the
Nick sets me off all the
that's the tiddlywink that set it off, because I am upset that my schedule's always fucking weird in the morning where I wake up, and today I wake up and I put this shit on myself like we put everything on it. I wake up, right?
Why are you shitting on yourself?
Huh? Why am I shitting on myself?
Yeah.
It's like a good exfoliator. No, I wake up and then I'm waiting for my personal laundry to come or whatever. It gets here, I give it to them, I answer comments in Colin and Greg Live. I'm like, cool, we're getting close to 10. And that's usually when people start showing up. So I want to make sure I get people in the house. Then I'm like, oh yeah, and I have a phone call about this project. I get on the phone call, you guys come, da-da-da. And then I'm now behind the schedule I wanted to be on. It's like, so I'm already like amped up. So if it is the Kevin comment, if it is Colin being late, if it is this, like that's just another thing. It was like, oh, and then it's harder to shake it. And then if we do have some dumb exchange, you know what I mean? Like whether it's me and Kevin, whether it's you and Kevin, whether it's us, whether it's all of us, whatever, it's me and Nick, like that's all it takes to set it off. So to get to Colin or Greg, yeah, I think like I think standardizing some of it would help. And I don't mean standardizing in a static bullshit way, but I do think that, 10:40, the stories are in, you know what I mean? Like it isn't the sliding, and that works for me too. Whereas like whatever my responsibility is 10:40, I'm not in the shower. Today I was in the shower at 10:45. You know what I mean? Like
we turned the shower on the Jones at the same exact time.
I put my hand to the wall.
But we got that. But we have that. It was like literally the same time. It was pretty funny. It was pretty cute.
But like that's the thing is like if we standardize it to the point where there was okay, here we go, we're getting ready, we're checking our bullshit and we go, rather than the bullshit coming in behind us. That's the thing where I can't get away from the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see from that show, because I've pretty much stayed out of the planning and execution of it for a while. But what I would love
because there is none.
That is true. So I mean, but I see Kevin being really stressed out, and you like his first words to you right before you guys have to go on is a stressful thing, right? So he is stressing you guys, and I see it because he does it to me sometimes when I have to be on the show, and I don't like it. But I don't like putting him in that spot, right? When he has to come over to me for the third time and say, can you please come into the room so I can do a sound check? Otherwise, there's going to be no sound. I don't know what's going on. I need someone to speak into a mic while I can listen to it.
Right.
And it puts me on edge. The way to alleviate that is to have what you're talking about, which is a set production schedule that you got to lead. Like it has to be you, right? Because we're always the ones that are like, you're the one constant of the show. So you need to be the one that's like,
yeah, it is your show.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, like, you know, Greg travels.
We're all
a lot.
welcome to put something up in the document, but you're the one gathering the news.
You're the one that gathers,
hosting
and you're the one, honestly, that it's, you know, you anchor it. You're the anchor of the show. So to me, like having more of a stringent format that we can play around with, I think would be a good idea. Like, I'm not saying we never break the rules, like, because we always break the rules, but let's know what the rules are.
Just like
first.
Lego Dimensions.
It's exactly like Lego Dimensions.
Yeah, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. I think is, on one hand, I take a lot of pride in the show because it is easily per like effort put into the show. Like we don't, like Greg and I don't really, we joke about how like we didn't even plan the show before we did it the first time. We didn't talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
We just did the show because Greg and I did so much together that we were just like, we know exactly what the show's gonna be. We were both on the same page. It's and the show in my mind is kind of like my vision for it in a way. It would work better. So in one way, I'm like very proud of it because I'm like, this is easily the most profitable thing we do for time spent on it. Like we make, like the show makes quite a lot.
I don't think it is though. I think then that's where my take is on the whole thing is that even though the money's went up, it's still not near the money that we make on the other shows, even per time put into it when you take into consider sponsorships or just like the overall ad money when it all adds up and this and that and whatever. But I think that it's interesting where it's worth doing. I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind is that's worth doing. But I think that again, I agree that it's at its best when it's you guys having fun, you know, and when it is more of a fun thing. It's funny what Nick was saying earlier about how I think he was talking about Kind of Funny Live, where it's like, it's not how you would do it, but it works. You know, I feel that way about it. Like definitely not how I would do it, but it totally works. And I'm like, cool. I think that if it was more of an actual news podcast, and that could be a different product too. Like that's the thing is it doesn't necessarily need to be Colin Greg Live, but I think that actually really getting into the news is what people want from you. You know what I mean?
Maybe I like that. And that's the hard thing. That's the hard thing that's for me to read is like, I don't know. Like that's why I need to I need more feedback from the audience specifically because it's hard for me to know why the show is profitable, but also understand why the show shed viewership is because it's not a show for casual Kind of Funny fans. And it was when we were not really a defined entity really. So it was like something that was like very malleable and people were in and out. But I've noticed that like the more off the rails it's gone, the funner it is for me to do. And the more laughs we have and the more tips we get and the more subscribers we get, but the fewer viewers we get. Yeah. And so like for me, I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to make this into because part of me. So going back to what my friend was telling me is like this show has significant untapped potential, but it seems like it needs structure. And to me, I'm like, structure's good because it was modeled after shows that have significant structure because they're on TV or on the radio. You can't just like fucking do whatever you want for, you know, so today will be 45 minutes, tomorrow will be an hour and a half. It's like, that's not possible. And so in my mind, I'm like, it's got to be a confluence of both things. Probably a less visual show. And that way it can be made into audio podcast. Because a lot of people are like, why isn't it a podcast? I'm like, it does not work as a podcast. It will not work as a podcast. Trust me, it doesn't work. But we can make it work. PTI, which is a TV show, does work as a podcast. I listen to it as a podcast. I don't even watch the show anymore. So I think part of it is going to be a collaborating with the ideas of some sort of structure, like making it an hour, choosing only 5 news stories or something a day, the most 5 important things to talk about, totally aping what PTI does and putting a clock on the board that forces us to only read the story and talk about it for a minute, rewriting the stories to condense them, which will create more planning. But then I feel like the show loses its soul. And then I wonder if the show is just not meant to be any more than what it is, you know? But I go back to this idea of there's nothing like it. Like there really isn't anything like it. I'm really proud of that. Like there's shows that are more serious and better produced that talk very gregariously about games, but like our product is unique and it is inspired by things outside of games, but the things that inspired it are way more structural. And we've let Kind of Funny kind of infiltrate like the modus operandi, the way we do things, infiltrate the spirit of the show. And I think it's made it more fun. Like I enjoy doing the show way more the last like few months than I've ever enjoyed doing it because I just think it's fucking stupid, you know? But then there are people in the comments, to Tim's point, where they're like, just get into the news. But then there are people in the comments that be like, this is so fucking
funny. Bring out the whiteboard. Why are you using the whiteboard?
And I'm like, when we did a show with Ramon, we didn't do the news at all.
Yeah.
You know, and
I think that's the key thing though, is to hone in on is like, okay, so like, yeah, there's people are never going to always agree. There's always going to be different groups that want different things, but it's like, all right, what are we doing? Why are we doing that show? We're not doing that show, at least now, for the financial means or for the views or anything, because it's just not in comparison to any of the other shows we do. It's the only show that we have that has went down in any regard. Everything else goes up. Having said that, there is definitely like a loyal fan base around that show, and I think that show is very important to who we are. And I think that is the importance of it, is finding that essence of what that is. And I don't even think it's the news stories. I think it is just the back and forth between you guys and stuff. And it's like, if I could change things, I would go back and just call it the Kind of Funny Morning Show and have just a rotating cast. It could be all 4 of us, it could be 2 of us, it could be 3 of us, it doesn't matter. It's some combination of us. We do whatever the fuck we want for an hour. If we want to, like, I think looking at the news is a good thing to talk about, because that's going to be new every day, and there's something that it just gives you a springboard. But really, it's more just, it is about hanging out, and it's not about the news. It's about the hanging out. And I think that right now it's kind of in that weird middle ground where it creates the dichotomy between the chat, where it's like, get to the news or get the whiteboard, where if it was about getting the whiteboard, it'd be about getting the whiteboard. The news would just be, you know, something to go off from there. And I think that makes room in a perfect world where we have more bandwidth and whatever to then make another show that is a potentially daily news podcast that is structured and is something that goes up, that is I mean, this is crazy, we're getting super ambitious here, but something that it is us giving our actual opinions about the news and not us fucking around at all. Like PS I Love You, I think, has a very, very ravenous fan base for a reason, you know, and it's because it is topical and it is released without any Patreon, this or that, whatever. But we need to remember the Patreon people, because they're the ones that matter most.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, PS I Love You is a weird. I knew PS I Love You was going to work and become popular. And there was no doubt in my mind that show was going to become popular, because it's the show we used to do that made us popular to begin with. So I was like, okay, it's like kind of like you got to go back to the well for nostalgia every once in a while, but you continue to do the product well. But what the weird thing about that show to me is that show is like quite wily and unpredictable in a way where we start a show for 20 minutes talking about food. People hate it, right? They get mad. They don't hate it, but they're a vocal minority. People are mad about it, right?
YouTube comments.
Then we do a show.
You know what I mean?
Then we do a show where Greg goes and has to deal with the water bill guy and stuff like that. And I go on like a 10-minute tirade about this water, and everyone loves that. And I'm like, these two things are not different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Same
like
thing.
they are literally the same vamping nonsense, but you liked one and not the other. And I'm like, so I don't know what the fuck you want. So we're just going to continue to do the show the way we want to do it, and that's what we've done. Right. I think the only misstep we had in PS I Love You's entire run, which I think is a fucking super. I mean, and I don't mean to pat myself on the back. PS I Love You is a fucking very good podcast, and I'm proud of that show because it's exactly what the audience wants. But the only misstep I think was the Rooster Teeth episode, and a lot of that is my fault. But I didn't want to, like, we shouldn't have done the show at all that week probably. But we said we would never miss a week, and we didn't, and we don't. We don't miss a week. But I was fucking shot that day. I was like, Jesus Christ, I haven't been in the sun this long ever. You know? So I was dying. And so with Colin and Greg, like, I think what I want to do with the show in my mind is, and people can leave comments on this podcast, or, you know, you can tweet at us and stuff. I'll read those, whatever, Facebook message, whatever you'd like to do. You could give us your feedback. But what I'd like to do is find a more structural way for feedback to be provided over the next few weeks or months. Because I'm not going to change the show.
Do a forum post.
Exactly. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then just see, because I want feedback from the people that watch the show. I also want feedback from people that are lapsed. And I want feedback from people that understand what the show is, but might need X, Y, or Z to get into the show. Because I do agree with my friend that, like, so our main products are podcasts. And we do 3, I think, great podcasts, 3 phenomenal podcasts. And I stand behind every one of them. I think this is a great show and a fun show. I think the Gamescast is a great show. And I think PS I Love You is a great show. But I do agree that in the untapped potential area, this Colin and Greg Live is it's almost criminally underserved in a way where, like, I have to figure that out, because the show can remain for years what it is, and it will grow and it will shrink, and we'll make a little bit of money on it, and we'll do whatever we want to do. And like and I still say, for like the amount of thought that goes into that show, I'm super proud of like what it's become. And it has this small ravenous fan base of several thousand people that watch it every day, and then thousands of people watch it in VOD every day, and then hundreds of people pay for it on YouTube. So it's got its like little nice little fan base, smaller than way smaller than PS I Love You, and certainly smaller than GameOverGreggy and Gamescast. So what I want to do is like kind of solicit some original feedback and kind of just get where everyone's minds are at. But ultimately, I want to find a way to solicit feedback on what the show should be. And here's like where my mind is with it. This is the way I would restructure it if I could. Is I would make it 60 minutes. We would have some sort of meeting beforehand about it. Not a long meeting, 5 minutes, where I'm like, here's 5 stories. There are 14 stories today. Those will be on PS I Love You. I'm not too worried about that. But here are the 5 stories for today. X, Y, and Z. Activision did this, Nintendo did this. We have some sort of timer, so we're just going to 8 PTI. Everyone has. And just be like, top story gets 5 minutes, second story gets 4 minutes, third story gets 3 minutes, and then maybe 2 minutes for the last 2 stories. And then do tips, and then do like and have like segments that are very defined. At 11:38, this segment begins, and at 11:42, this segment ends. And if you're late to it, like they're on PTI, you just skip the segment completely, or you cut into the segment, and then it becomes a very defined show. And we make it less visual and more audio. That way, the show can then be proliferated in audio podcast form. We can get it right up on iTunes and all that kind of stuff, and people that afternoon on their commute home or whatever can go ahead and watch it. So that's kind of like where my head's at with it. But at the same time, I want to make sure we have that spirit where if I have something to say or a tirade or Portillo shit in my room or did something where I'm like, I want to be able to talk about that. Like, it's funny, it's stupid. That's what the show is. And then I'm afraid that if we do this structured thing, then it becomes more like the other shows that are out there. Then it alienates the audience. Then we lose the entire spirit of Colin and Greg Live. Then we either have to go back or we cancel the show. So like that.
I mean, the thing about it is the structure. I mean, PS I Love You is structured. There are segments, you know what you're going to get, blah, blah, blah. But we still get to be goofballs in there and do all this dumb stuff. The timing thing would be the one where, yeah, we have to figure out how that would run. You know what I mean? What does happen when we start with a joke and we run over and then we get to the top story, we give 5 minutes, but we're already 3 minutes close to where we're supposed to be the break. I mean, that's all stuff you figure out as you go and figure, fuck around with it.
In other words, if there's not parameters, then I'm not going to stick to them. I mean, that's always been my rule in my life. Like, if there's not parameters, I play a game like hockey, there are parameters, I follow the rules. But if I'm just going to like be like, here's a show, you know what you're doing on camera, you've done this for fucking ever.
Right.
Do a show. And it can be as short or as long as you want. And it's all about your mood and it's all about all these kinds of things. Then it's like, I don't know, like, then it's going to be my show. And and that's what I think Colin and Greg Live has turned into. And I'm fine with that because I do think we were talking about Kind of Funny Live where like that's the most hardcore audience, right? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't because some people can't travel. Some people don't have the funds to do that or whatever. I do think Colin and Greg Live is more aligned with that hardcore audience because it's just way easier to access. And so the people that are just ravenous about this nonsense at work or whatever, it's for you guys. But I want it to be the show that it's not even about making more money because it's not like super relevant to me. Like I always want us to be more profitable. I always want us to be more in the black and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the most relevant or salient point. It's that like this is the product that is the most different. And so should it be treated with the most care? And that's kind of the conundrum I had. So I wanted to pose that to you and then see what you guys thought.
You saying that it sparks an interesting thing in me because I don't want to come across as just like I'm talking about like if it's not making money, it's not worth doing. But I do think that there's a value, and I get in a fight with my girlfriend all the time about this, where making money is a sign that you're doing something right. So you're talking about there's the most untapped potential, and I know you understand this, but if you're not tapping into it, it's worthless. You know what I mean? And I think that money comes from views and money comes from this or that or whatever. That is all a sign of going in the right direction and tapping into that potential. And I think that is what we need to figure out. And it's interesting what you're saying. I do think that that success, the potential there is the less structure, more freedom. It is just hanging out. It is just a glimpse into our minds, and us just having fun.
So maybe that's the answer. I mean, that's why I want it. That's why I need data.
Because my thing is with what you're talking about with the structure, I think that's fucking awesome. I don't think that's a Twitch show. I think that we needed to think about Colin Greg Live. What is it? It's a Twitch show. It's a live show. We're interacting with people. And I think that is the power of it. Turning it into a podcast. I know people want that, or at least they think they want that. But the thing is, no, you would much rather us make a podcast for you, Right. And it's like, you want to listen to the audio version of it. That's different than a podcast. You know what I mean? That's just an MP3 at that point. And I that's not just mincing words there. I think that there's a different amount of planning and a different amount of thought that gets put into that stuff. And I think that the fun of Colin and Greg Live and the magic of it and where the untapped potential is, it's having fun. It's being purely us. Making it that the reason people are coming to it is us. Whereas the other thing is news. And you do the PTI thing. That sounds like a great fucking show. But I think that should be a podcast. That should be a PS I Love You style thing where there is a format. We can have fun with it, but it's still, that's where it's on iTunes and it's, being given out to people this way or that way. But the way that we distribute content is the most important piece of the puzzle, because the moment we have too many podcasts, than we are just podcast. Colin Greg Live is one of the few things we do that puts us in a different vertical, in a different category. And we need
It's
to
our
make,
only Twitch presence, right?
yes, exactly. And it's like, I feel like we need to make it more Twitch instead of more podcast, if that makes sense.
No,
yeah, it makes
does.
sense. I mean, it's in the exact opposite direction. One of these answers is right? And I think that maybe Tim's right. I think that the status quo will give us the status quo. It'll give us the status quo financially, give us the status quo in views. Maybe there's ups and downs. It's just that, like, I can't ignore the data that's been given to us, right? More money, fewer viewers. What's more relevant? And, viewer drop off is 40, 30, 35% or so. Right,
Yeah,
probably year
are
over
we
year.
getting the front page promotion anymore from Twitch?
We're not getting it as heavily,
miss,
but
yeah.
it is hit or miss. And there are other intangibles. I would say 1 in 5 viewers organically is left, right?
Sure.
After like you factor in, and that's just conjecture, but I mean, after you factor in Twitch placement, all that kind of stuff, I don't know. But it's like, but then the tips are like through, like once we really started reading tips, through the roof. Once we started reading subs, through the roof.
Now,
right?
for the record, subs are consistent.
No, I'm saying, but no, subs weren't always consistent because we weren't even reading subs, and so
Sure,
people
but
were
I'm
dropping
saying
off.
we
So you
raced
actually
out
see,
to like 1,100. Now we're at 1,300. We've been 1,300 forever.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that we would get tips. What I noticed back in the day on Colin and Greg Live, and it's anecdotal, but what I noticed having been on the show almost every day is like we would get a lot of new subs and stuff. You didn't see those numbers have been like, 13 months, 14 months, whatever. A lot of those are baseline months that actually started not in the beginning, but in the summer. And if you look at those are numbers that I just like have observed like between 9 and 14 months or so, but we started the show like longer ago than that. So that's one of the things I'm saying is like once we paid attention to these sort of things, it worked. And that wasn't really my idea. That was actually Greg's. So I'm not taking credit for that at all. But so we have to kind of figure out as like structurally, I think like I like the idea of Tim and Nick doing their own show on Twitch. I think our Twitch presence should be not streaming games typically, but like doing other shit, and so that's what's fun to me. But it's funny that are you bless you?
Do you need my hand?
It's funny to me that it's something that it's just like kind of a given that we do the show, but I've not tried to program it because it never seemed worth programming. But then it's like, well, what my friend said to me, being a knowledgeable person, I was like, that's interesting because he watches the show and they're developers and publishers that watch the show.
Right.
And I'm like, it's just so silly, but they like it and they get a lot of pleasure out of it. But it's so contingent on our personalities, the yin and the yang.
You know what I think another factor that I think is really important to this is the fact that it happens every day and the fact that it gets promotion every day. So every day when people are on this side of the coast at work, they're seeing this pop up on their Twitter feeds because people are looking at their Twitter feeds. So it's like, that's how they're getting into it. And I think that's something to really kind of keep in mind when it comes to our podcast and stuff. It's all in a minute. It's being tweeted throughout the day, like maybe a tweet from you, like a couple hours later, you. And it's like, I think that the fact that every day at the same time, this thing is being brought up, I think that's why people have this sense that the show is bigger than it is, which is good. That's the whole secret to what we do, is looking bigger than we are, making people think that we're bigger than we are. So the fact that there's people out there that think Colin Greg Live is a big deal, that's fucking awesome because they don't know the numbers. You know what I mean? They look at the concurrence. They don't know. You could tell them, oh yeah, we used to get 5,000. They wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the magic there. And it's just like, how do we take that? And it's like, how do we think about what the users are actually doing and engage with that, and you kind of enhance that and find the way to just give the people what they want more and find out what other people are being turned off by, which most of it is they're just not on Twitter at that time.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I've stopped tweeting from the Kind of Funny account at all the last 2 months about the show. Like I just stopped because I'm like, it's the same thing every day at 10:50. Like and I've tried to engineer Twitter. We've talked about this many times, but like I've stopped actually even responding to tweets and just instead of retweeting people, like to empower users to be like, well, tweet us your nice comments or your pictures or your cool, your merch, whatever. And that way it's like a nice feed of things that people can read about. But then I was like, the weird anomaly here is that every day at 10:50, it's still the same fucking image and the same shit about Colin Greg Live. And I have to figure out something else to say about it. So I'm like, I just didn't promote it at all, especially because the click through wasn't like great. So like there is much to figure out with the show, but I do want to solicit, and you can do it in the comments and whatever and get at me, but I will do it in an organized way that that brings up and bubbles up the salient points. And I do think that we have to figure it out because I like the show and I think it's stupid, but that's why I like it. And I want to know if someone identified why they like the show, if the word stupid would come to mind for them. It might. And if that also was a word that would turn off other people, because I would understand that if someone was like, this show's stupid, you should watch it. I'd be like, why the fuck would I watch a stupid show? But then maybe I like it when I get in there. This is how I feel about Broad City, actually.
I love Broad City,
which I think is a fantastic show. It's
so
stupid. It's stupid
good.
as hell, but it's
so
smart.
Good.
Is that the
And
one
I actually
with
think Colin
the
Greg
two
Lives-
women in
Yeah.
New York? Yeah, that was all you were watching the plane.
Oh my god!
And I think Colin
it's
Greg Lives
genius.
actually like, and again, like I don't know if people agree. I think it's actually a surprisingly smart show because like it's two people that know each other very well and like how to deal with each other very well. And when that show's on, like the comedy is good, the vibe is pleasant, and that's what. So I don't know. It's Kevin. Turn on your shitty microphone and tell me what your thoughts are, because you're the producer of the show.
So
So you're the and I use that in the loosest possible sense, by the way.
Just
but
we don't have
I
another
want to
term
still
for you.
honor you with that term. So you're the producer of Colin and Greg Live. So what would you do? And I'm being serious. Like, where do you see it? What do you want out of it?
So I think that there's like two things, like the future for it and things that we could do now to make things run a little bit smoother. Like we talked. Maybe
No,
like
you're right about all the getting in time and the news stories. That's fine. That is on me. But I'm talking about like more. What is your vision for like an adapted?
Yeah, but like you don't want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Hopefully.
if that's what you want to talk about.
Well, I'd like to see a change in that. And like Greg was saying,
I think it's been better.
No, it hasn't.
It has been. We don't start at 11:05 anymore.
So it's 10 minutes better, but still, it's like we kind of all came to an agreement. We sat together and we're like, hey, we'll all be in our seats at 10:55, and that's why at 10:55 I very loud. I don't do it for you. Like you will come in. I do it to get your attention. Like, hey, I'm putting it on standby because we were already supposed to be in our seats.
So what is your vision for the show, though?
For the future, I like the idea of having rotating seats. Not necessarily you two all the time. I like it when they're on. I like the different combinations. I like seeing you with Nick, seeing you with Tim, seeing you with both of them. And I think that that's cool. And I think if we incorporate that more, I don't think that a solid structure is going to help necessarily. I like the idea of just not having that structure and like, yes, having like, okay, comments at the end. Kind of what we got
we
going
have a
now.
structure now.
Yeah, we have
No, I know, but
we
I'm
have an
saying,
order
but
of
a more-
operations, but not a structure.
Not like a big old timer that's like ticking down.
Yeah.
I think that like that could kill jokes that would happen naturally and would be a lot of fun. I mean, I just think that a little bit more diversity in who's hosting will go a long way, because I love when they're on, and I love seeing you guys mix up and who you guys are talking to. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that too. I don't know that that's in the like. I want them to be on whenever they want, and I like the idea that we came up with before, which was like once or twice a week they just come on. I still see the show anchored by Greg and I. I think I'd want to see a show that has nothing to do with me on Twitch. That is more up Tim and Nick's alley, because I like to heighten their personalities and get them out there, especially because like I don't want. One of the cool things about doing this is that, to me, is that I like the idea of Nick and Tim being more internet personalities. It's like not even really something I ever wanted. It's just something that's kind of happened. And I like it. I'm good at it, but it's, so I like the idea of you guys like seizing control, making a show that's even better and more popular than mine.
That we could go out there.
As opposed to
and we
taking
could-
this flaming
we could
garbage truck.
explore the internet.
We could.
We could be internet explorers.
Or we could every Monday at 9 a.m. talk about love and sex stuff.
We could do that.
And just have headlines and thumbnails and get the views.
Because that's more up my alley as far as porn's concerned. I think what you're asking really is, how do I grow the show? Right?
Well,
I think that might be more of the like that, and that's what I'm hearing from you is like you're
well, I'm asking what's most relevant.
right. I think to me most relevant is whatever strategy grows the show. I don't think we necessarily have to change it from a content standpoint. I think consistency would help, and that's what what I'm hearing from Kevin is that starting consistently and letting everyone know that whatever's happening after that might be a garbage truck on fire, but at least the fucking thing left the garage at 11 o'clock every day, so people know to count on that. I think we joke around about it, but I think that's very, very important, because if I tuned in at 11 o'clock in my busy day and it wasn't started yet, how quickly could you get distracted at IGN from 11 to 11:05, right? That's the difference between someone going, I need you right now for something, and you go, I'm going to make up an excuse, or, well, I have no reason to make up an excuse, I'm going to go, right? But I think the more salient point, to use a term that Colin does, is how do we grow it? And that brings up a larger question of how do we grow our Twitch presence in general, because we're really only doing that one show on Twitch, right? We talked about doing more streaming on Twitch, having a couple shows. Like when we originally talked about it, remember we were kicking around the idea of like, could you guys go from 11 to 12 and then Tim and I'll pick it up from 12 to 1 or some combination of that, which I still think would be cool, but I don't know if that's the answer or not. But really, so it's hard to answer because so much of our focus is we are YouTubers who are flirting with this girl called Twitch, right? But we're married to YouTube and we're married to iTunes. But this Twitch girl, there's something there. How do we get in there? How do we pry those sweet? No? All right. No. Okay. For those of you listening at home.
Just stop hard.
I'm getting a lot
stop.
of shake. But I think that's the question that I think would actually, I mean, I'd love to hear what fans' perspective are, but I think you're going to get a gambit. I think you're going to get a whole variety of responses from that.
Yeah, but if you dig in, you're going to get trends.
Sure.
So,
And I think the trend is going to be when you guys are having the most fun, though.
The biggest thing is, I don't think so. I think whatever we put out there is what we're going to get back. So you saying the PTI thing, people are going to want PTI thing. Like that's just how this works. You know, it's kind of the game of you need to always think about what you put. It's just framing. You know what I mean? Like when you give
Steve
people
Jobs,
options,
people don't know what they want until you tell them.
Exactly. And
Right.
I think that's, where a lot of this is going to come from. But yeah, there will be trends. There will be a lot. We just need to really look into all of the comments and look at all the different avenues. I think the forums, you should write a post, and I think you're going to get a lot of really good feedback there. The comments, there'll be a lot of stuff all over the place. The Facebook group, I think that it's all of these different groups that, all serve different functions, but at the end of the day, they're all part of this community. And I think that's where this all comes down to, because it's what we do is for them, and they're here for us, and it is a really intrinsically tied thing. So
much to think about.
Lots to think about. Nick, why don't you think about how this was brought to you by Harry's Shave Club? Stop compromising on your shave, Nick, and get started with Harry's. For far too long, you've either paid too much for a comfortable shave or, ew, gross, he's making me touch it. You settled for a low price but low quality razor.
My neck. It's making him touch my neck.
If you're listening to the MP3, it was his neck. Harry's offers something you've never had before. A great shave at a fair price. Harry's makes its own high quality razors, cuts out the middleman, and ships them directly to you at half the price of the leading brand. Good shave, good price. It's simple. Get the best of both with Harry's. Harry's starter is just $15. That includes a razor, 3 blades, and your choice of Harry's shave cream or foaming shave gel. Which do you prefer and why? As an added bonus, you can get $5 off your first purchase with the code Kinda Funny, all one word. After using the code, you can get an entire month's worth of shaving for just $10. By cutting out the middleman, Harry's offers an amazing shave at a fraction of the price of those drugstore brands, and shipping is always free. Harry's will give you $5 off your first purchase with the promo code Kinda Funny. Go to harrys.com right now and look for the Truman set. That's Harry's, HARRYS.com. Enter the code Kinda Funny at checkout to get $5 off and help support the show. Stop compromising. Give Harry's a try today. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the GameOverGreggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can toss us a few bucks and get each and every episode early, along with a bunch of exclusives and perks.
Goodies.
If you have no goodies and monies and stuff to toss, go to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we break the show up topic by topic, day by day, until the entire thing posts as one big MP3 and YouTube video for your amusement. This is the final time we get to speak to you before Kinda Funny Live. If you're on your way, safe travels. If you're already here, don't drink too much. If you see Amy Gilroy, hug her. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.